I hope that it didn't come across as too much of a lecture, because she has opened herself up to criticism.
She has.
With
She's
a very
actually,
obvious criticism.
Yeah.
In the same way, I wrote in the Telegraph the other day, in the same way that William is totally opening himself up to criticism by doing homelessness. It worries me that people around Harry don't have quite the same line as has been in place for very many years successfully. There are obviously reasons for that. They want to make progress with his security case. There are lots of arguments why they need to make progress with his security case.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of a Right Royal podcast with me, Andrea.
And me, Emily.
We've got quite the episode prepared for you. From Prince William's tears to security scares, there's been so much going on in the royal world.
We had an unannounced visit to Northern Ireland, which I covered. I'm going to tell you all about in just a moment.
I can't wait to hear all about your adventures.
And that's not all. Meghan's Paris Fashion Week appearance has made headlines around the world. There's been another bump in the road for Prince Harry's security, and the King's diary has been packed, from an incoming state visit announcement to an important joint outing with Prince William.
And we've had some lovely moments too. Kate's early years essay gave us food for thought, and Camilla's been busy championing books.
Should we dive straight in before we bring in our guest? This week it's the Telegraph's royal editor, Hannah Furness.
Let's do it. Welcome back to the studio, Emily.
I wouldn't have missed it, Andrea, as you know.
Tell our listeners, though, the reality of going on a job like you did this week to Northern Ireland.
Look, I love going back to Northern Ireland because I worked out there quite early on in my career, and it's a fantastic place. But the reality of covering a rota job there this week meant that I left my house at 5 a.m. and I got back around 9 p.m. A couple of flights, quite a few hours in the car. And yet I really, really enjoyed being there.
It was really fun. Like the 3 engagements that they planned out were really fun. But before we get into that, this engagement, obviously you've known about for some time.
Well, we knew about for a few days in advance.
Yeah. But why is it such a kind of secret?
Well, historically, obviously, there have been a lot of difficulties in Northern Ireland dating back to the Troubles. And because of that, security around royal visits is even higher than it would be in other parts of the country. And so, when they're being organised, there's a lot of secrecy around locations and timings and things like that. And that is just obviously to ensure that everything unrolls as smoothly as it possibly can.
Now, you had the first engagement. You were there.
That's right, yeah.
Which I loved. It was so much fun. Well, the videos that I saw, obviously.
Let me tell you about this place, right? It's the Northern Ireland Fire and Rescue Service's first ever Learning and Development College. That's a long title, so I'm very pleased I managed to get that out all in one go. But William and Catherine were there to have a look at this facility. It's £50 million worth of equipment. But what they've done in this big rural area is built in different real life scenarios. So there's like a replica village. It's a bit like if you supersized, Legoland, where you have all the little houses and stuff. And what you have is an 18-week course. So people trained to be firefighters can go in and experience what it's like to fight either a real fire or a simulated fire. And this building's incredible. The top roof of the building is designed to replicate a ship. So if you're up on the top, it's like you're on the deck of a ship. So you can put out a fire that's on a ship. There is a shop. There's a warehouse where you can do the big ladder rescues. You can stimulate lowering someone from a rooftop by ropes. And then this incredible floodwater facility. So like a huge pool that suddenly gets flooded with water. And what we saw was the prince and princess having a go at throwing lines to
They weren't very successful, were they?
I don't think they're ready to be deployed as first responders just yet. Although, as we know, the prince did do that in his previous career. But what I loved about this engagement is that we saw them really getting to grips with things, having a go, really enjoying themselves. And this is a serious issue. These are people who are putting their lives on the line to rescue and protect other people. And it meant such a lot to the people that I spoke to there, the trainees and the graduates from the course, that their work was being recognised. One thing that struck me as well is that the prince loves a bit of kit. He was very excited to see all of these amazing facilities laid out and just understand a lot about what's being put out there for people. And Kate, in turn, was really impressed by it and was saying to people, look, this should be the experience for all people training to go out and carry out these rescues. So it was fun, but with a serious message underneath.
And then engagement 2, obviously, that was also fun. And obviously there was a quick change of outfit.
There was indeed.
Mainly because Kate was better suited for it in flats, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. So they were on a farm that produces flax to make fabrics.
Yeah.
And, there's quite an interesting narrative that's followed some of their jobs and some of their outings in recent months. And we've known that she has a passion for textiles for quite a long time, but really the couple are keen to showcase the best of British. And so we're seeing that. She had a visit to mills out in on the East Coast recently, now doing the same in Northern Ireland and really showing a bit about the manufacturing process. I feel like it's the kind of thing that King Charles would really, really appreciate. He loves traditional crafts. We saw her getting involved, trying to, I don't even know what exactly was going on there, but she was doing it with gusto.
Yeah. And a good strength in her arm.
Good arm strength,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But having fun, and I'm just going back to the fire and rescue job. They got into this fire engine, which obviously made a lovely picture and lovely videos of them getting in and out. But actually what was most fun about it is that one of the graduates who was riding in the fire truck with her then told me afterwards, she was saying she really wanted to go at full speed and have the sirens blaring. And it's
obviously
like
she was joking, we have to say.
She was joking, but there's a sort of childlike joy, and it's just nice to be able to, relax, I suppose, for them in these very public moments.
Oh, I love that. And then engagement number 3 was also fun. I just felt like it was an overall fun day full of fun videos and fun moments. So engagement number 3, a bit of baking.
It was a bit of traditional Irish potato cake making, but on a cider farm. And disappointingly, we didn't see Prince William with a pint of cider on this occasion. We know that's his favourite tipple. It didn't happen, but he did get involved in some competitive baking, which is something we always love to see from him and Kate together. So,
Kate's always going to win in the kitchen.
I think she made it pretty clear who is king in their kitchen at home, and it's not the Prince
William.
of Wales.
And obviously, it was a busy day for you. You're back at work, but so is William.
Of course, they are very busy at the moment. He is, as we speak, preparing to visit RF Benson in Oxfordshire with the Crown Prince of Jordan. They had an audience earlier today with the Crown Prince and Princess, which Kate also joined, which is lovely to see. You've got this lovely contrast then between the sort of the fun and japes while out on rural engagements and then the more formal, almost statesman-like moments. And it's great to see how adept they are now at moving between the two.
Yeah. Gosh, there's so much to cover still. Shall we welcome in our guests?
I think we absolutely should. Let's welcome in Hannah. Hannah, it's an absolute delight to have you back. Thank you for making time for
Thanks
us.
for having me again.
Now, there's never a dull moment on the Royal Beat. I know Andrea's very keen to kick off by talking a little bit about what's been going on at the other side of the pond. We've had Meghan making various appearances in New York and Washington. Harry was also in New York. But this little phase of activity began at Paris Fashion Week. What do you make of this sort of flurry of activity?
Well, she's back, isn't she? She's back again in a slightly different guise. So last time we saw her, it was this very homely, domestic Netflix show. It's about the jam and the flower petals. This time it feels like she's going for a much more elevated look, isn't it? So she wants to be, she's on the Paris front row and the fashion shows. She's putting together these behind the scenes looks at her time in Paris and New York, speaking on stage. It's a very polished look, and I feel like she's talking about things slightly differently. She's stepping into a world of fashion, and she's talking about possible future beauty lines and things. It feels slightly different, but also slightly the same. They've had these weeks out in New York before, haven't they, where they've done the ticked off the few things, and mental health, receiving an award, date night, a little bit of behind the scenes with Ed Sheeran. Nothing Meghan does is by accident, I would say. What do you think?
Well, I want to know where you were on Saturday night when I realised that Meghan was in Fashion Week, and I just panicked and ran into my house. I was actually driving back home. But I was actually very excited because she has been to Paris, not to Paris Fashion Week, she has been to Fashion Weeks years ago during her Suits, time.
Yes, and you can imagine the difference from where she was sitting then and where she's
sitting now. And actually what shows, she can go to now compared to before. So I thought that was incredible affair. The fact that also I think they might have been filming Devil Wears Prada also excites me, because does that mean she'll be back on screen? I have been wondering.
It'd be quite a cameo, wouldn't it?
That would be quite a cameo.
I was surprised at how surprised everybody was at Fashion Week, actually. I feel like this is something that was sort of inevitable that she was going to do eventually, with enough distance from the royal family. I was surprised that there's been any commentary about how she can get back to it after her royal life, because we know that the royals do a lot with fashion.
Yeah.
You had the late Queen Elizabeth in the fro.
Yeah, with Anna Wintour.
Next to Anna Wintour, with that extraordinary kind of avant-garde with all the helmets on the catwalk in front of her. So I don't think it's a particularly shocking, unroyal thing to do, to go to a fashion show. It feels quite natural to me.
And then we know that she went really quickly back home for one day to see the kids.
Saw the babies.
Yes. And then straight to New York, where actually our colleague, Alex Hurtado, was there, and she attended the engagement. So it was very interesting. I mean, she is feeling comfortable. Well, so is Harry. I feel like they're in there, they're doing what they're good at.
They're doing what they like doing.
Yeah.
And that's what this was all about, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know whether Harry looked hugely comfortable on that kind of step and repeat red carpet. And I always think now of what he said about the flashing, how he doesn't like the flashing lights.
Yeah.
And I always think, and obviously he's a grown-up man and he makes his own decisions, I always think, this is what you said you didn't like. Are you okay?
Yeah, we're not used to seeing royals stop and pose.
No.
They never do that. It's very rare when they actually look into a camera, and probably when they do, it's kind of by accident, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's a real power dynamic there, because actually when you watch it in real life or you listen to video clips rather than just see the photos always come out wonderfully from those sorts of, stages. But when you listen to it, it's just a load of photographers shouting, saying, look at Meghan
and
over
the clicks,
here, Harry
it is quite noisy.
And they kind of doing as they're told.
Yeah.
And that's quite an extraordinary thing to see, because as you say, if you see the royal family going to a premiere, everybody still gets wonderful photos, but they're not paying attention to any kind of press work, and they're certainly not taking instructions from any shouting photographers.
Yeah, that was very interesting now that you mentioned it. And then from there, they spent quite the weekend in New York visiting, Meghan and Harry's friends, because the meeting with Ed Sheeran, I would say it's more to do with Harry. He has worked with
old
Harry.
Friends, he turned up to a World Child Awards for Harry during the COVID period. And
Invictus, did he work with Harry?
I think he was involved.
Yeah, I remember a video.
Ginger jokes, didn't they? Yeah. They did that mental health video, which obviously I personally object to.
Are you part of that crew? You should be. I think I can see a little WhatsApp group. How rude.
And thankfully we know what they did, because Meghan did share a reel of her time in New York. So again, very helpful. I love her use of social media, because it keeps me,
Yeah, exactly. Quick visit to Gloria Steinem.
Yes. And then then on to Washington, DC for the Fortune Summit.
That's right. It really does feel a little bit, as you say, that she's really going for this sort of slightly elevated image, I suppose. You've got the very homely stuff. We're going to talk about jam, Han. It's what we bring you on for.
Yeah.
But, on the one hand, you have her in the kitchen, cooking up her jams, putting her flour sprinkles on things. On the other hand, she is in the seat of power in Washington, DC.
And she was quite open.
She's always pitched now as businesswoman, founder, entrepreneur, isn't she? Did you hear in the Forbes thing, how often were we talking about the olden days and how often were we talking about the future? And now it felt quite future focused to me. And talking about going back on social media. I'm quite enjoying the kind of slow moving away from always saying the mysterious kind of a few years ago I couldn't do this and now I can do this. I'm excited to see the end of that because I don't think that's actually terribly useful.
I don't think it was serving them.
No. So the fact that they're talking much more about her just as she is now, obviously that's how she's curating her life. Yeah. But it probably, as you say, does serve them better and helps focus the mind. Because who in that audience, who is there to see her as Meghan in case she's going to talk about members of the royal family? Probably 5 years ago, it would be most people is what they're hoping for. Are people there now out of curiosity because she remains the Duchess of Sussex? Probably a lot of them.
Yeah.
Where she'll be seen to have some successes when there are people in that audience who are wanting to be there for her actual tips as a businesswoman and a founder. Yeah. She's possibly not there yet, but maybe in the next few years, that's where they'll get to.
It's going to be a slow grower, I think, isn't it?
I think there was still a hint at her past days because she did talk about financial independence.
Yes.
And she said that gives you freedom. So
and there was the healing. They had to do healing.
Yeah, healing. Other than that, she did talk about, is she coming onto TikTok? She's not sure. Is she coming out with a magazine or books? Again, she talked about that. I thought it was a good chat. Let's talk about Harry for a second.
Well, I have a big question for you, Andrea, because
I know what you're going to ask.
Viewers and listeners will probably be across the story that Harry, when he was in the UK, got very close, or rather a stalker got very close to Harry and caused a bit of a security kerfuffle. I'm just going to put this out here because you were at both engagements. Is there something you need to tell us?
You know what? When I saw that story and I saw the picture...
You did panic, right?
Yeah, I panicked because there was I could see a blurry person and I zoomed in. It was not me. But I was very surprised and taken back by that story because I was there. Obviously, the first engagement was Wellchild. We were both there.
It wasn't me, by the way.
Yeah. There were a lot of people. So, I don't know what could have happened there. But the second engagement, there was barely anyone there. I was there. I took videos of his arrival. I took videos of his departure. I never got a sense that something was wrong. So it's quite interesting how discreetly they operate and how well they know, I guess, the situation, but also who to look out for.
My understanding is that the team are given names, faces of people that they may want to keep an eye out for. And I think sort of traditionally that's something that the police would be doing in this situation. But it was very interesting that story came out just prior to another approach to the Home Secretary by Harry, asking for
security,
a review of his security, and this story just doesn't go away, does it, Han?
No, and it concerns me. I have to say the amount that is made public about Harry's security. The royal family are very careful to never talk about security. And that in some ways is helpful to them because it means they don't have to answer questions from the likes of us about security costs and things. But the real purpose of that is to not flag up any flaws in their security. It's not that every single member, somebody who's born in the royal family, has full-time police protection in this country.
Most of them don't.
But they choose not to say, this one has it, this one has it, this one doesn't, this one's going to an event, and by the way, there's no police there, for very obvious reasons. That if there are people out there who have these bad intentions or even fixations, they want to come because they're a super fan. There are two sides. There's somebody who wants to cause real harm, and there's somebody who wants to have a hug and a selfie that is just a bit too much to be in those situations. It worries me that people around Harry don't have quite the same line as has been in place for very many years successfully. There are obviously reasons for that. They want to make progress with his security case. There are lots of arguments why they need to make progress with his security case. But I hope that they are making very careful decisions and they're talking to their own security and the police back here, who still do have an oversight of everything, to make sure that they're not exposing either Harry or the events he attends to unnecessary risk.
It's interesting as well because, as you were saying, in terms of Meghan and the narrative that she's putting out into the world at the moment, it's very much about the future, moving on, a little bit of healing. Yeah. But it's very forward-looking. And this still, for understandable reasons, seems to be going back over and over old ground for him. But he's had a bit of a challenging time in terms of a lot of the work that he does. We've had another story about African Parks, which is a charity he's involved with in Africa. The government of Chad has ended its remit in the country, so sort of cut ties with this charity. He is there's been quite a lot of challenge, hasn't there, in the work that he likes to do and the position he wants to be in. And it all comes down to, as far as he's concerned, this ability to go to places and do the work, I suppose.
It's been a very unfortunate run of events, hasn't it? For things that we know he does care about genuinely. And on a continent he's often talked about as being his home, his second home. The security, in my mind, feeds into the future in that it is Invictus that is going to be held in the UK in 2027. One imagines that he wants to bring his wife and children there. So the security, while it is backwards looking, it also, in his mind, I think probably defines the future as well in terms of how easily he can come back and how easily he can bring other people. And Invictus, is it exaggerating to say Invictus is really one of the last things he's got left of the causes that he founded from and cares about and the things that we really associate with him? Invictus really is the one now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess there's a lot riding on that because it's going to be in the UK. Everything needs to fall into place for that to not have unwanted narrative around it, I suppose.
And it's his absolute natural. It's the thing they lean on a lot, his service. He's a veteran. He can speak to, you know, people, look them in the eye and know that he served and they served. And, you know, Invictus, we've talked about this so much, everybody knows about Invictus. It's like he's received like the second coming of Jesus when he goes to Invictus Games, because he genuinely, it means so much to these families that you can see how important this Birmingham event is going to be. And there's a lot that could go wrong and there's a lot that could distract from the competition itself and the competitors. And hopefully there's a way of ironing all that out with enough distance to mean that the games is just the games.
I have a question you might not be able to answer, but this whole security thing, again, do we think that his dad was briefed that he was going to do this? Does this complicate things like some people have suggested?
He's going to write to the Home Secretary, do you mean? Well, the reaction suggests possibly not. They may have spoken about it in person. I don't know how much communication there is directly between father and son. There is a little bit between their offices now. Either way, the king still can't be seen to do anything about it. He can't be seen to intervene, no matter who thinks that as a father he should just say, can you give them some more security?
Please. I'm the
king. He just can't.
I mean, I will intervene at this point.
Just to stop talking about
it.
I mean, maybe that's the tactic.
Just make this go away. Make this go away.
There's only so much he can do. So if he was informed, he can't really say do or don't do. If that came out that the king is interfering in the nation's sort of security arrangements, these publicly funded, publicly arranged issues, it just can't happen.
Before we move on, because we will move on from Harry, you know, you say Invictus is kind of like his last thing that's left. And I just want to go back to last week's event where he was in New York and how good it was, really, the work that he is doing with social media, mobile phones, which actually unites him a bit, doesn't it, with his brother, Prince William and Kate. Like they're both...
It's something William started work on actually a very long time ago and got very frustrated with the big companies because no one was really taking on board his argument about the dangers of this and the need for a bit more social responsibility from, you know, the big tech firms. So I really feel that he led the way on that argument. But now it's something that obviously impacts all of us so much. It's something that we can all really understand and relate to because the social media world has expanded so much since then. Yes, it's a natural thing for a member of the royal family or a former member of the royal family to get behind, I think.
We actually spoke to a parents of a young girl who took her own life due to social media. And the parents said that it was thanks to Prince Harry that he was able kind of like to keep living. And it really hit how important it is what they're doing.
I think it's the importance of having somebody with that status and that profile to back you and to be in your corner, isn't it? And it doesn't matter whether you're a former member or a current member. Having someone in a position of high profile back you and make you feel heard, really. And we'll go into this shortly when we talk about what the Prince of Wales has been doing. It really does. It kind of shows you the power of the royals. in or out of the fold.
Yeah.
And also, it is such an issue of our time, isn't it?
Yeah, it
All
really
parents
is.
are so aware of their children and phones and social media. And you're almost looking for somebody to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very difficult as individual parents to solve this issue. And
Yeah.
you're kind of looking for somebody to give this rallying cry or show a bit of leadership. And like you say, the Prince of Wales tried and really just came up against a load of tech companies saying...
He got quite cross with them.
Yeah.
He did. He was
gave that
very cross.
frustrated speech, didn't he? And it was quite eye-opening, I think, to them at the time to have somebody say, in not so many words, with their behaviour,
Yeah.
we don't care.
Yeah. Tough.
It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. It was sort of the first time I can remember them trying to do a cause and not really being able to make any tangible progress other than some nice words. And I mean, I wish they would all do it. Someone needs to solve it.
Yeah, someone needs to do it. So keep working on it.
Let's move straight on to this, actually, because it is all pertinent. The fact that we've had, yes, Harry and Meghan getting involved this week on the topic. We've also heard from the Princess of Wales about how we should be more connected face to face rather than through our screens. And this is hot on the heels of William also telling Eugene Levy that his children don't have phones and they sit around the dinner table. So as you say, it's absolutely a topic of our time. But how did that land with you, Kate's message about...
I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
And like I say, I think people are really looking for people in positions of influence and leadership to just start making some progress on this issue that we all know, whatever the studies say, common sense wise, is just not good for us and not good for our children. So in a sense, everything she wrote was common sense. It was based on research. It was done in coordination with Harvard, and this Harvard professor co-wrote the essay. I think probably it was a little bit guilt-inducing for a lot of us. And in that sense, it's a good reminder. I think the Palace are very clear that this is not her saying phones are the devil's work, nobody should have a phone. I think it is intended to be a reminder of nobody's going to be perfect. No parenting is perfect. It's not even just about parenting, it's about society. But I think it was supposed to be more of a nudge of, we kind of all know what we should be doing to be happier and healthier and try and do a bit more of it rather than we all know that we cannot totally revamp our lives in the modern world. It's supposed to be a sort of a reminder of what we can do well to try a little bit.
I read the essay during my school run
while wrangling children,
whilst taking my children, trying not to lose them in the middle of London. So that's how I took it in.
That's it, and that's what so many people do, not just in our jobs, but so many jobs now require you to be looking down instead of looking up. And I found that essay quite moving, actually. And I think it did give me a bit of a nudge, and I think it will give everybody a bit of a nudge. And I hope that it didn't come across as too much of a lecture, because she has opened herself up to criticism.
She has.
With
she's
very
actually,
obvious criticism.
Yeah.
In the same way, I wrote in the Telegraph the other day, in the same way that William is totally opening himself up to criticism by doing homelessness, because it's so easy to say, you've got loads of rooms, why don't you just give your houses to homeless people? And he has sort of accepted that that's going to be the criticism, and he thinks it's worth working on anyway. She is obviously going to get criticism saying, well, you don't work a 9-to-5 job, you don't have a demanding boss, you don't need to be checking your emails all the time because somebody will tell you if there's something
someone's
important.
doing it for you.
Exactly. And she feels that it is important enough to slightly stick her neck out, which is very unusual for the Princess of Wales.
Really, it was quite a bold move.
Often that could be seen as controversial.
Do we think she was
obviously
behind?
Cares about it.
Do you think she was behind the Vodafone outage this week? For listeners who don't know, we actually had a Vodafone outage. So for 3 hours, I did not have internet. I actually thought my work had blocked it.
Very quiet.
It was great. I had a nice bus ride with my children, not looking at my phone. So maybe it was intentional.
It does go to show, though, and I think actually, to come back to the purpose of the essay, it was obviously that phones were the absolute line, the news line that everyone leapt on naturally, because as you say, it was quite a bold thing for her to do. But the overriding message was that we do all need to focus much more on our interactions with one another.
Connection,
real
life connection.
Yeah, and it's so true, because so much what we do is done through WhatsApp or text or FaceTime or whatever. FaceTime has better, obviously, but it's not often that you do take the time to put the devices away these days and really be in the moment with people. And that's something that I've always been told about the princess, is that when you're talking to her, she is absolutely honed in on you and the one person that she's, having a conversation with. So she's obviously very good at practicing what she preaches, which is all part of the job, I suppose.
Yeah, and William said, as you said, the children don't have phones. I mean, obviously their children having phones comes with all sorts of other issues from the rest of us, doesn't it? Imagine what they could read when they go on, when they're given a smartphone. But they're the exact age where a lot of parents are wrangling with this. My child's begging me for a phone, all their friends have got one.
I do wonder how they handle that, because other kids are...
They don't need to call and say, please, can you pick me up because the bus hasn't come. It's a little bit
No, but, my kids have friends and they're like, my friends play this, my friends do that. And, you always have that anyway. It doesn't matter,
the peer
they're
pressure.
prince or princesses. They're just kids. I wonder how they handle that.
Yeah, well, I think
can they tell me, please?
I think the princess does have the courage of her convictions. She's read a lot about this. She's been involved in a lot of kind of academic discussions, panels, where she's hearing about the damage it does. And I think probably they're both on the same page on this, that they are the parents and they've decided. And I think with an essay like this, it's less this is what you should all do. It's more we want what we've got for more people.
It's aspirational,
the benefits of what
it?
we've seen. We would love it if everybody could have this.
And it's also not just about that whole family dynamic, is it? The aim of all of this is to create a happier, healthier society. And the idea is that by getting these things right when kids are really small, it makes the rest of their lives so much more straightforward. And that's not always going to be the case for, lots of children have very difficult starts in life. But it's just interesting, isn't it, that this is much like mental health when they did Heads Together back in 2016, 2017, became much more part of the national conversation. And I think having a member of the royal family adds to the topic. There's a big campaign at the moment called Smartphone Free Childhood that lots of parents are signing up to. Having a member of the royal family also enter the debate really makes it part of our day-to-day currency.
Yeah. Sophie Winkleman actually is doing a lot of work with that as well.
Yeah.
So it's really good.
And
Lady Frederick Windsor.
Yes, sorry.
You can see, we don't see the children out and about that regularly, do we? No. But when we do, I always find it incredibly striking how good they are at looking people in the eye, going straight in with a handshake. They're very socially adept, confident children.
Yeah.
And that isn't necessarily down to their position. It's also their parenting as well, isn't it? And you can see the effort that William and
especially
Catherine
at
put into it.
Church events.
At church, walkabouts, they're very good at real life.
Well, the walkabout at Christmas is fun. They get presents. So that is not, that's
you wouldn't be looking at your screen, would you?
No, exactly. But church, it's even hard for an adult. To stay focused.
And when we saw George at the D-Day anniversary with the veterans, he was asking questions and responding to people. And these, unfortunately, are not skills that all children have nowadays, in a way that in previous generations it would be a given that you could make those sorts of conversations. So I think she's worth listening to.
Yeah. Let's talk about William and Charles, because they were out together last week and it was very interesting because last time they visited the Natural History Museum, they did so as a trio.
That's right. Harry was there and that was for a David Attenborough event, wasn't it, a few years back. It was interesting to see father and son together on an issue that they both are very passionate about. This was the countdown to COP30, which we know that Prince of Wales will be attending in Belém during his trip to Brazil. You and I are a bit excited about Brazil, aren't we?
I'm excited for you guys.
Can we do a special edition in Brazil?
I think it would be rude not to. I think we should.
I think you should.
I think we will report back. We will report back. But this was really quite lovely, I thought, that you've got the sort of, not the passing of the baton, but to see the generational, focus on a topic. It's something the King's been involved in for many, many years. And now his heir is going out there to sort of fly the flag. And I think it's nice to see.
The King would have liked to be at COP,
of course
wouldn't
he?
And William is the one going. And as you say, they're obviously on the same page. This was a chance for a bit of it. It's very rare that we see sovereign and heir together in any generation. for obvious reasons, mostly because they like to split their activities to get as much, spotlights on different things. So this is a sign of how much they care about this issue and how important they think COP30 is. The King will probably send a message. Do you think?
I'd be very surprised if he doesn't. Yeah. I want to talk a bit about William as well, because we had the Eugene Levy show, The Reluctant Traveller, which was incredibly revelatory on a personal level. But then we saw something unprecedented from him in a clip that was shared to mark World Mental Health Day and the launch of the Royal Foundation's suicide prevention scheme. Tell us a bit about what we saw.
Well, we saw William sitting at a kitchen table with a mother who he's spoken to quite a few times over the years. Yeah. He's very familiar with her story. And she was talking about her husband's suicide following the death of their very young son. And unusually, he was asking her the questions. He welled up. He looked tearful, emotionally, sort of had to stop what he was doing. And Rianne almost commiserated with him, which is something people who are grieving often find themselves doing, isn't it? It was very affecting to see. It was interesting and unusual that they kept it in the clip. This is something that they could have taken it out, and they could have taken it out if they wanted to, and they didn't. I think the reason he found himself upset, he started saying it's difficult to ask you the questions, and I imagine the end of that sentence was asking questions that he knows might upset her. He was aware that it's a difficult thing to talk about, but the whole point of this video conversation was to talk about suicide. It's a difficult thing to talk about, but we've got to talk about it. It's how you stop it, by talking about it. So it was interesting to see it. He is very good at talking about grief, isn't he?
He's very well
versed in it. He understands it. He spent his working life having these conversations with people. They don't often make the headlines. And this is sort of the first time we've really seen him in full flow doing it.
Yeah, I thought it was absolutely fascinating. And like you say, this is the kind of subject that it's very easy to look away from because it's so emotive and challenging.
I mean, we were sobbing in the office, I have to say.
Yeah, and it is the decision to keep that split second scene in, I think, did so much to get eyes on it. But it wasn't just a sort of, PR move by any stretch at all. But it goes back to what we were saying about Catherine's message in the phones. As journalists, there has to be a hook, right, for the story. But just that split second image of him kind of really engaged people in a way that it might not otherwise have done. I thought it was really interesting.
And it's also slightly putting his money where his mouth is, because we've heard him say a lot, let's leave the stiff upper lip behind us. It's okay not to be okay. You've got to talk about these things. And it's easy to say those sorts of things. And this was a demonstration of it in real life that people were able to see. I can't imagine it's the first time he's become emotional in a conversation like that. And as you say, very often they don't get reported. We see them with our own eyes a lot. Yeah. He's very good at taking people aside and checking that they're okay and having these conversations. It's the fact that it was captured on film and that they were willing to share it that was interesting, I think.
A lot of the comments, though, were he is his mother's son.
Yes, and he quite often isn't seen as his mother's son, even though he does the same causes. Yeah. They look very similar, especially in mannerisms, especially when he was younger. But he's quite often seen as a little bit more formal because he's going to have to be the king one day. And this was a really great chance for people to see the other side of him, which is there all the time. Yeah. It just doesn't necessarily get the headlines, does it?
And on a much lighter note, I very much enjoyed the deployment of Welsh cakes. I feel like there should be more Welsh cakes in royal
all
footage and videos.
Should be in
just
Wales,
going to put that out into the universe. Exactly.
I also want to know what happened to the Tupperware.
Well, I think they can let that one go, can't they? They can let that one go.
I love how she was telling her mum, like, he took your Tupperware.
I know.
He's taken it. I love
probably
that.
The things the royals don't think about, do they? They just take these things.
Now, from Welsh cakes to potato cakes. Before you joined us, Han, I was filling Andrea in on my day in Northern Ireland with the Prince and Princess this week. I love these moments where you see William and Catherine getting involved in something. We know they love to be a bit competitive, but this very fun moment between them making potato cakes for a griddle on a cider farm, and William not quite getting it right.
Well, he was making his own version. He
went off script a little bit. What do you think that does, though, for, again, their image? We talked about him being more willing to show his emotions, opening up a bit more about the family, but it's important to, with these very heavy messages, around the environment, around mental health, to throw in these bits of light humour as well.
Absolutely. It's not their job to just lecture us all the time about issues. As much as that's important work and they care about issues, yes, we have to have some levity. And, it's good if we're talking cynically about the royal family as a brand, which it is, big picture-wise, that these real human glimpses of them having a nice time, trying out a fire engine. They love to try things, the Prince and Princess of Wales, which always surprises me a bit because they're in front of the cameras and it's always they tried to pretend to save someone in a river and they both missed.
It was hilarious, actually.
It was quite funny.
They're always risking mild embarrassment.
But
they don't mind. They don't mind. They love trying things and learning new things. And they're good at, she is good at cooking. I don't know if you picked up in some of the quotes that she was explaining to him that this is how she does it at home. So you get this glimpse into their home life that she is totally the cook in their house and he likes to give it a go and joke about how terrible he is all the time.
Yeah, there's a word for that, isn't there? When you pretend you can't do something to encourage someone else to do it for you.
Are you accusing the Prince of Wales of weaponised incompetence?
I'm absolutely not suggesting that, but it does happen in some households, I've been told. So.
I always feel we get a really good engagement from them just as they're about to kind of take some time off, which they are, because half term starts this week for 2 weeks. So we shouldn't expect to see much of them.
Well, there's a very busy period coming up for William in particular. We've got Rio, and there's been a lot going on, on a day-to-day level as well. We've had his meeting with the Crown Prince of Jordan this week, and the Crown Princess and Catherine as well together. And that's really interesting, isn't it? Because she has that family connection to Jordan, having spent time there as a young child. And they attended the wedding, of course. So it's nice to see those close ties in the second generation, isn't it?
Yeah. Talking about home, though, they're about to do a big move.
They are about to do a big move.
They're
about to do a big move into their forever home, no less. This has been obviously something we've discussed before, but this all lends a lot to our understanding of home life for them, doesn't it? So we're hearing that the princess has been sourcing fabrics from one of the mills that she visited earlier in the autumn, and is really enjoying putting things together for the interiors and building this. Building this life. So we're hearing little bits about whether it's what she's doing in the kitchen, the fact that the kids are not looking at their phones, that they're all sitting around the dining table. And I think it's really important, isn't it? Because at the heart of our royal family is a sense of unity and stability. And it's all really important in terms of projecting that to the wider world.
Absolutely.
This move was scheduled to be for sometime Christmas, but it's moved.
It was
closer
meant to be,
to...
it's still going to be in for Christmas, but in for bonfire night.
Night.
If you're not in the UK, is the 5th of November, remember. And it's usually quite a celebration.
Yeah.
Big bonfires, fireworks.
It's very exciting.
They've got some lovely grounds to do that.
They've got room.
They've got space.
They've got space. But we've heard that no staff will be living with them.
That's right.
And this is the bridge, isn't it, between the Middleton upbringing and the royal upbringing. And actually, I thought the documentary with William the other day was really interesting on this, because we've sort of been led to understand that they lean very heavily on the Middleton side when it comes to bringing up the children and how they live their home life. And I think it's the first time I've heard William speak really warmly and affectionately about growing up around Windsor himself and seeing his granny and running up and down St George's Hall and how he takes his children there now to do it. And it was bringing in this sort of thread that actually royal life is not always formality and structure and dealing with the press, that it can be fun as well.
Yeah, and he has good memories from his childhood that he wants his kids to also have.
Exactly. So it feels like they're starting to blend those worlds a little bit, and we're getting this picture of Windsor as the real centre of the home here.
Now let's move on to Camilla, because she's been very busy, mainly with books.
She loves a book.
She loves a book.
She loves a book. She attended the Cliveden Literary Festival at the weekend, and then an event with the Book Trust, which is a charity she supported for many, many years.
She had quite the guest.
She certainly did.
Peter Rabbit.
I know. Well, as one colleague said to us earlier, it was a bit like being in a cheese dream, seeing those photographs. But she really does wear her heart on her sleeve when it comes to her passion for literature. She's able to call in some pretty weighty authors as well, isn't she, Han?
Yeah, she is. And it makes for these very lively events, doesn't it? You recognise so many faces and names, and she has become a bit of a magnet for authors coming together at these admittedly very lovely events, Clifton Literary Festival, the Queen's Reading Room Festival. And this has all been slightly more in the headlines because of the death of James Gilly Cooper, who was a great friend of hers, and she gave that incredible tribute, which brought everything to life so well. It's a key passion of hers. Yeah. It's an easy thing for people to support. Everybody thinks that reading is a good thing. And I think they now are hoping to shift the dial into, as well as people who already love reading, it's really about getting books into the hands of people who are going to learn to love reading. And they try and shine a spotlight on that, don't they?
Now, we've had quite a few exciting royal announcements this week, such as a state visit.
A state visit incoming, not to be confused with outgoing to the Holy See, which is happening next week, very excitingly.
Again, are you guys going?
We might be. We might be.
Yes.
One
night in Rome.
One night in Rome to very early
You're making it sound like nice and romantic, but the reality is just...
let's update you when we get back just about how unromantic it is likely to be. No, that's very exciting. And we have an incoming state visit from Germany, and that is in early December. He's really packing them in, isn't he, the King?
Yeah, it's been 3 this year, which is not unheard of before, but generally we tend to see 2, don't we? 1 early summer, 1 winter like this. He's got a lot to do.
He has, yeah. And I guess there was a whole period last year where things were put on hold as well. So do you think this is, an element of catching up?
Catching up, and also they do seem to work. The 2 we've had this year seem to have had very immediate, tangible results. And you can see why the government would be requesting more of them.
Yeah.
Because the soft power, we always talk about soft power, and it always moves the dial a bit. But if you look at the narrative around that American visit, the Trump visit, it's just superpowered the soft power, hasn't it?
It really has.
In terms of Britain on the world stage and our negotiations with other countries. We know that Europe is a huge priority for the government. We know that the King has a very natural affinity with European countries. We're going to see his German again, which is always incredible.
Which I really enjoyed, actually, when we saw him over there.
He just needs to find some new sort of pop culture jokes.
Yeah. He can't wheel out craft work again. It'll have to be something slightly different this time. Let's have a think about.
We did say last week that we're not getting a tour, we're not getting major travel from them. So it's quite nice, though, that we're getting that extra.
I think you're absolutely right. Yes, a very short visit to the Holy See, but then with this coming just a couple of weeks afterwards, you can... it's a pretty packed autumn term.
It's going to be quite the December. I don't want to say busy because, we don't say that word here. But
well, we don't say quiet. I didn't say that either.
Well, it's been great talking to you, Hannah, again.
Thank you so much for coming.
For joining us. And have fun without me, guys. You seem to be doing so much.
We'll send you some selfies from
Rome, from Rio.
From a very glamorous airport cafe, I'm sure.
5 a.m, bleary-eyed, Gatwick.
Oh, I can't wait. That's everything from us today. Thank you so much to you and Hannah for joining us. We'll be back soon with another packed episode.
In the meantime, get more from Hello with our entertainment podcast, The Daily Lowdown, available on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Bye.